All right, the Texas Revolution PowerPoint notes. You should have a note sheet that looks like this, and it's going to start off with some review with the road to revolution. So first of all, you're going to answer these on your own. I'm not going to answer these for you because this is just review. What was Stephen F. Austin's contribution to Texas? So think about what Stephen F. Austin did and how he contributed to how he's remembered today in Texas. What document gave Texans states' rights? We just talked about that yesterday. So think about which document that was part of Mexico's government that gave Texans states' rights or the ability to become a state within the country and have rights. What are states' rights? Number 4, why was Santa Anna popular with the Texans at the beginning? So think about why they pledged their support for him in the beginning. What did he tell them? What did he pledge to them that earned their support? And number 5, sequencing here, put these events in order from 1 to 4. So 1 being the oldest, 4 being the most recent. Number 6, what is the Fredonian Rebellion? Think about what that was from yesterday when we talked about it. The multiple choice review question, which one was not a provision or a restriction that was part of the law of April 6, 1830? So 3 of these were a part of the law of April 6, 1830. Which one was not? And kind of a tricky one, so just make sure you read each answer choice carefully. Number 8, what was the reason why the Mexicans created the law of April 6, 1830? Why would they create such a harsh law that was restricting? Number 9, why was Stephen F. Austin arrested? And then number 10, did Texas have a representative in the Mexican government? Like, did they have representation to be able to speak on their behalf? Okay. All right, so we're going to start off with this question here. Why do you think the Texans had a casual uniform while the Mexicans had a traditional uniform? Let's look at the PowerPoint. So those are the review questions that I just went over. So looking at this PowerPoint here, you see that on the left side, that would represent the Mexican Army's uniform. And then over here to the right would represent the Texan Army's uniform. And you can see one is, of course, more professional and more important looking than the other. The other one looks like a farmer's uniform. So think about why would the Mexican Army's uniform look more official than the Texans' uniform? Okay. Who was more of an official army? That's a good question to ask. Okay, we start off with the first battle, which is the last thing we talk about in the road to revolution, and that was the Battle of Gonzales. Okay. The Battle of Gonzales was... All right, the Battle of Gonzales was the first battle of the Texas Revolution. This battle was about or over a cannon. The Texans dared the Mexicans to come and take it. So that's the infamous come and take it phrase that you see on the flags in Texas. And of course, the Texans refused. The Battle of Gonzales is considered the Lexington of Texas because in the U.S. Revolution, both battles were the first battles. So the Battle of Gonzales is to the Texas Revolution as the Battle of Lexington is to the American Revolution. Therefore, both battles were the first. If you were a Mexican soldier, how would you view the defeat? Oh, by the way, the Texans won at the Battle of Gonzales. So if you were a Mexican soldier, knowing what you know about this rebel ragtag army, how would you view the defeat of the Battle of Gonzales? And so I'll let you answer that, but obviously they would have felt embarrassed, upset, revengeful, amongst other things. Okay, if you turn the slide or click to the next slide in the PowerPoint, you're going to see a slide about the capture of Goliad. This was another small battle victory for the Texan Army that occurred October 9th, 1835. 50 Texans attacked the garrison and won the battle. And again, along with the Battle of Gonzales, this is more confidence and assurance that gives the Texan Army motivation to keep rebelling against the Mexican government, and of course Santa Anna. And the reason why Texans are so against Santa Anna and the Mexican government is because Santa Anna, of course, has declared himself supreme dictator of Mexico, and he has completely disregarded the Mexican Constitution of 1824. So most of them feel well within their rights to continue these rebellious defiances. We had talked about the consultation that occurred. There were two groups of Texans, the Peace Party and the War Party. Group of Texans who in the Peace Party believed that they should try and work things out diplomatically, not strike up war, continue to find different ways to work with the Mexican government and with Santa Anna. The War Party, which was probably the majority of Texans at this point, wanted to, or felt like this was the time to separate or secede and become independent from Mexico. So, number 15, Texans voted to be loyal to Mexico but opposed Santa Anna because he was an evil dictator. Why did the Texans support the Mexican Constitution of 1824? Because they were working off the premise that it gave them the right to become their own state within the country and have states' rights, which translates to local control. Again, Santa Anna had won the support of the Texans in the beginning when he was running for president of Mexico because he promised he would grant the Texans separate statehood, but of course went back on that. You can answer number 16 on your own. Why do you think the Texans viewed Santa Anna as an evil dictator? Because he went back on his word. Right before the break, we viewed the film The Alamo, and so you probably remember this scene. Right there in the middle is William B. Travis along with about 180 Texan soldiers defending the Alamo. That scene is probably depicting the famous line in the sand where he says, hey, no reinforcements are coming. You can either choose to stay here and fight and die or choose to beg for mercy from Santa Anna's army. All right, during this whole timeline of the Texas Revolution, Texans are working furiously to make a provisional government. They are making plans for their separation from Mexico, so they need a constitution in place for their new republic. They're going to need lots of delegates, and they're going to need to elect a temporary or a provisional president, vice president, etc. So this is what's known as the Convention of 1836. We're going to skip number 17 because we're not going to watch the video yet. But let's go ahead and go through these set of blanks here. Number 18, on March 2nd, 1836, several delegates met to discuss Texas's future with Mexico. The Texans wrote a set of grievances or complaints and appointed George C. Childress, remember that name, to write the Declaration of Independence. The grievances in the Declaration of Independence included they opposed the unfair taxes the Mexican government put on them. They opposed the lack of representation in government. So the fact that they didn't have separate statehood and no representation in the Mexican government was a grievance of theirs. And the fact that there were too many Mexican troops controlling the Texas area. So they created a constitution or a provisional government and elected David G. Burnett as president and Lorenzo de Zavala as vice president. They also decided that Sam Houston would be the general of the Texas Army, just like George Washington was the general for the U.S. Okay, again, so we saw this in the video as well. The Alamo opened up with delegates from the Texans talking about, seceding from Mexico and having the rights to do so. You see, at first they didn't want to elect Sam Houston as their general of the Texan Army, but they then, as the course of the video goes, they relent and go through the course of it. 19 through 21, critical thinking questions. What was the purpose of writing the Declaration of Texas? So think about that. Why write that? What is their grievance? What is their complaint? Number 20, why did writing the Declaration of Independence come easy to the Texans? And so think about where the Texans originally came from. And then number 21, if you were a Mexican soldier, how would you view this convention, this writing of a temporary government to separate? All right, so let's pan to the Alamo Falls. So this was actually a second battle at the Alamo. We'll talk about the first one, but the first one was a win for the Texan Army. This is the infamous Alamo second fighting at the Alamo that we've seen in the movie that most of the Alamo movies are based upon. So while the convention of 1836, let me zoom in there, was being held, the Battle of the Alamo was taking place. Sam Houston sent James Fannin to burn down the Alamo. Remember, I've talked about that, how there never should have been a second fight at the Alamo. It was General Sam Houston's orders to burn it down. But many of the soldiers in the Texan Army kind of defied those orders, including James Fannin and William B. Travis. Travis felt that the Alamo was too important to destroy. Santa Anna arrived earlier than expected at the Alamo. This battle lasted for 13 days. On the last day, the song El Degüello was played, which means slit the throat. El Degüello being played by the Mexican Army. I don't know if you remember that in the movie as well, that the trumpeters and the buglers. Skip over number 23. Number 24, Travis wrote a letter at the Alamo saying he will never surrender nor will retreat. All Texans were killed, and this was a warning to rid all Anglos from Texas. And then, of course, you can answer that number 25 there. But yes, remember that this Travis wrote his famous letter basically saying we're outnumbered, we need more reinforcements and resources and men if you can send, but sadly they never came in time. And Santa Anna had first offered to let them go if they would surrender, but being the brave man that William Travis was, basically said, no, we will not. And along with him, the other soldiers at the Alamo felt the same way. And so we're going to look at that letter in depth as we move along this week, but this is the point in the Revolution where that happens. Okay, the runaway scrape. Just a mass number of people fleeing from Santa Anna's pathway after seeing what happened at the Battle of the Alamo. Women and children and any men who weren't fighting, all just packing up their things to run away, and that's what's known as the runaway scrape. Answer number 26, because that's a what do you think? But draw a picture of what you think the runaway scrape would look like. And I don't know if you saw some of this in the video, but, you know, people packing up and leaving, hearing about Santa Anna coming and fleeing his path. Answer numbers 28 and 29 on your own. Let's look at Colledo Creek, because this is where James Fannin of the Texan Army was supposed to go. Sam Houston sent orders to Fannin to meet up with him. Fannin disobeys Houston's orders because he wanted to go help fight at the Alamo. On his way to San Antonio, Fannin's wagon breaks down, leaving him a perfect target to be captured. Fannin was then surrounded by a Mexican army and taken prisoner and marched to Goliad. So this is where the infamous Goliad massacre occurs. Fannin and his men thought they would be set free. However, Santa Anna gave orders for 350 of Fannin's men to be shot. All right, go ahead and leave this up so you can see what to fill in for the Battle of San Jacinto. And you can pause it.